New York City. Sophia Martinez was officially having the worst day of her life when she decided to do the stupidest thing possible: kiss a complete stranger. It all started when she spotted Brad, her ex-boyfriend of 3 years who had dumped her for a 22-year-old lifestyle blogger, shamelessly flirting with said blogger in the middle of the launch party for the hottest new rooftop bar in Soho. Sophia's blood boiled. Not from jealousy, at least that's what she kept telling herself, but from the sheer audacity of him showing up at the exact party where she was celebrating landing her dream job at Whitman Creative, one of Manhattan's most prestigious advertising agencies. "That jerk is not going to ruin my night," she muttered, gripping her champagne flute tighter. That's when she saw him. Tall, dark-haired, with the kind of 5 o'clock shadow that suggested he had more important things to worry about than grooming, though the end result was devastatingly attractive. He stood alone at the bar, absently scrolling through his phone, wearing a navy dress shirt that hugged his broad shoulders perfectly. Perfect. Sophia took a deep breath, smoothed down the red dress she'd specifically chosen for tonight, and marched toward the stranger with the determination of someone about to commit calculated madness. "Excuse me," she said, moving close enough to catch his cologne, something woody that made her stomach do a traitorous little flip. "Could you help me with something?" He looked up from his phone, and Sophia almost lost her nerve. His eyes were a striking blue-green that seemed to shift like ocean waves under the bar's colored lights, and when he smiled, a crooked, curious smile, she felt her knees go weak. "Sure," he replied, his voice deep and slightly gravelly. "What do you need?" "I need you to kiss me." The words tumbled out before she could second-guess herself. The stranger blinked, clearly surprised, and Sophia rushed to explain. "My ex is over there." She gestured vaguely toward Brad, with his new girlfriend. "I just need him to see that I've moved on too. Would you mind pretending for a few seconds?" The stranger followed her gaze, quickly spotting the couple who were being inconveniently obvious, and when he looked back at Sophia, there was something amused in his eyes. "Your ex doesn't have great taste, does he?" he said, giving Brad an appraising look. "Do you want just a quick peck or something more convincing?" Sophia's heart raced. Convincing would be great. "Then let's give them a show." He moved closer, one firm hand settling on her waist, the other rising to cup her face with a gentleness that contrasted with the intensity of the moment. Sophia had exactly 1 second to notice that his eyes had tiny silver flecks before he kissed her. And what a kiss it was. This wasn't the theatrical kiss she'd imagined. This was something far more dangerous, hot, intense, with just the right amount of tenderness that made her forget completely where she was, why she was doing this, and even her own name. He tasted like whiskey and unspoken promises, and when she found herself kissing him back with a passion she didn't know she possessed, she knew she was in trouble. When they broke apart, both were breathless. The world had disappeared for a few seconds, and Sophia had to grip his arm to keep from losing her balance. "Did it work?" he asked, his voice rougher than before. Sophia glanced quickly toward where Brad had been standing and almost laughed. Her ex was staring at them with his mouth hanging open, clearly shocked. Mission accomplished. "Perfectly," she breathed, still trying to regain her composure. "Good." He smiled, but there was something different in his eyes now, an intensity that made her blush. "You know, I usually ask for a name before I kiss someone." "Sophia," she replied automatically. "Sophia Martinez." "Ryan," he extended his hand formally, as if they hadn't just shared the most intense kiss of her life. "Ryan Thompson." They stared at each other for a moment that stretched beyond comfortable, charged with a tension Sophia didn't know how to interpret. There was something there, a connection that went beyond the convenience of the moment. "I should go," Sophia said finally, though every fiber of her being was screaming at her to stay. "You should," Ryan agreed, but he didn't move. "It's just—" She hesitated, biting her lower lip. "Tomorrow is my first day at a new job, and I need to be responsible," he finished, with an understanding smile. "Exactly. Then go." he said softly. "And good luck with the new job." Sophia nodded, grabbed her purse, and walked toward the exit on still shaky legs. It wasn't until she was in the elevator that she realized she hadn't asked for his number, nor had he asked for hers. A perfect kiss with a perfect stranger, and she'd probably never see him again. The next morning, Sophia woke up with her stomach twisted in knots. First day at Whitman Creative, the chance of her career. She dressed carefully. Navy blazer, white blouse, black pencil skirt. The perfect image of a competent, professional advertising executive. Nothing that would remind anyone of the woman who had kissed a stranger the night before. The agency's building was imposing, all glass and steel in the heart of Midtown Manhattan. Sophia took a deep breath as she entered the elevator that would take her to the 18th floor. She had worked years to get here, Columbia graduate, internships at smaller agencies, building her portfolio one campaign at a time. This was her moment. The reception area was exactly what she'd imagined, sleek, modern, with advertising awards proudly displayed on the walls. The receptionist, a young woman with perfectly styled auburn hair, looked up with a bright smile. "You must be Sophia Martinez. Welcome to Whitman Creative. I'm Madison. Mr. Thompson is waiting for you in conference room B." Sophia's blood turned to ice. "Mr. Thompson?" "Yes, Ryan Thompson, our creative director. He'll be conducting your orientation." Madison's smile never wavered. "He's really amazing to work with. You're so lucky to be on his team." The world tilted slightly. Sophia managed a weak smile and followed Madison's directions down a hallway lined with campaign posters, her heart hammering against her ribs. This couldn't be happening. The universe wasn't this cruel. She stopped outside conference room B, took a steadying breath, and knocked. "Come in!" Sophia pushed open the door and stepped into her worst nightmare. Ryan Thompson sat at the head of a long glass table, looking devastatingly professional in a charcoal gray suit, his hair slightly tousled as if he'd been running his hands through it. When he looked up and saw her, his coffee cup froze halfway to his lips. For a moment that felt like an eternity. They just stared at each other. Sophia watched as recognition, surprise, and something that might have been amusement flickered across his features. "Well," Ryan said finally, setting down his coffee cup with deliberate care, that familiar crooked smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "This is going to be interesting." Sophia's mouth went dry. Her new boss, the man she'd have to work with every single day, was the stranger she'd kissed last night with more passion than she'd ever kissed anyone in her life. She was in serious trouble. The silence stretched between them like a taut wire, both of them seemingly frozen in this impossible moment. Sophia's mind raced through a dozen different escape scenarios, but unfortunately, conference room B had only one door, and Ryan was sitting directly in its line of sight. "So," Ryan said, leaning back in his chair with an expression that was part amusement, part curiosity. "This is awkward." Sophia forced herself to move forward, setting her portfolio on the table with hands that trembled only slightly. "Mr. Thompson, I can explain." "Can you?" He raised an eyebrow, and she caught a glimpse of that same playful confidence from the night before. "Because I'm genuinely curious about what explanation covers kissing your future boss at a party." Heat flooded her cheeks. "I didn't know you were... obviously I had no idea." "Relax, Martinez." The way he said her last name, all professional and proper, made her stomach do another one of those traitorous flips. "Take a seat. Let's pretend we're meeting for the first time." Sophia slid into the chair across from him, trying to ignore how his eyes seemed to track her every movement. In the harsh fluorescent lighting of the conference room, she could see details she'd missed in the dim bar. The small scar above his left eyebrow, the way his tie was just slightly loosened, the fact that his blue-green eyes were definitely more blue in the daylight. "Welcome to Whitman Creative, Ms. Martinez," Ryan said formally, but there was definitely mischief lurking in his voice. "I'm Ryan Thompson, Creative Director. I'll be your direct supervisor." "Thank you, Mr. Thompson," she managed, trying to match his professional tone. "I'm very excited to be here." "I'm sure you are." He opened a folder in front of him, presumably her file. Columbia graduate, summa cum laude. Impressive portfolio. 3 years at Henderson and Associates, where you worked on the Reynolds department store campaign that won a Bronze Lion at Cannes. Sophia blinked. She hadn't expected him to be so thoroughly prepared, or to sound genuinely impressed by her credentials. You know my work? I know everyone's work who comes through this door. It's my job. His expression softened slightly. You're talented, Martinez. That's why you're here. Something warm unfurled in her chest at the praise, quickly followed by panic. This was exactly the problem. She was attracted to her boss, and apparently he knew her professional history, as well as he knew how to kiss. About last night, she began, but Ryan held up a hand. What about it? We should probably address... What's to address? Ryan's voice was casual, but his eyes were sharp. Two adults at a party helping each other out with an ex problem. Happens all the time. Sophia stared at him. It does? Sure. Classic fake relationship scenario, very rom-com. The corner of his mouth twitched. Though I have to say, your ex looked like he'd swallowed his tongue. Well played. Despite herself, Sophia felt a smile tug at her lips. He did look pretty shocked. Mission accomplished. Ryan closed her file and stood up. Ready for the grand tour? The next 2 hours passed in a blur of introductions, office layouts, and company policies. Ryan was the perfect professional guide, knowledgeable, funny, and completely appropriate. If Sophia hadn't known better, she might have thought she'd imagined the whole kissing incident. Except for the way her skin seemed to buzz every time he accidentally brushed against her, or how her breath caught when he leaned over her shoulder to show her something on her computer, or the fact that she kept stealing glances at his mouth when he was talking. This was a disaster. And this is your office, Ryan said, opening the door to a small but bright corner space with windows overlooking the street. Your first assignment is on your desk. The Sunrise Cafe campaign. They want something fresh for their fall launch. Sophia stepped into the space genuinely impressed. It wasn't huge, but it had natural light and enough room for her to make it her own. This is perfect. Good. Ryan leaned against the doorframe, and Sophia tried not to notice how the pose emphasized his broad shoulders. Staff meeting at 3 to go over current projects. Think you can handle jumping right in? Absolutely. She turned to face him, projecting confidence she didn't entirely feel. Mr. Thompson, I want you to know that what happened last night won't interfere with my work here. I'm a professional. Ryan studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. I never doubted that, Martinez. But I have to ask, are you going to be able to work with me? Because if this situation is going to make you uncomfortable, we should address it now. The question caught her off guard with its directness. Are you going to be able to work with me? I asked first. Sophia met his gaze steadily. I can handle it if you can. Good. He straightened up, all business again. One more thing. About 50% of advertising is about chemistry. The spark between ideas, between team members, between the brand and the consumer. Chemistry can't be faked, and it can't be forced. Sophia's heart began to race. What are you saying? I'm saying that whatever happened last night, whatever that was, it's not necessarily a bad thing for our working relationship. Ryan's smile was enigmatic. As long as we keep it professional. Before Sophia could respond, he was gone, leaving her alone in her new office with her thoughts spinning like a tornado. Keep it professional. Right. Easy enough, except for the fact that every cell in her body seemed to light up when he was around. She spent the rest of the morning diving into the Sunrise Cafe materials, grateful to have something concrete to focus on. The coffee chain wanted to rebrand for the fall season, targeting young professionals who were looking for more than just caffeine. They wanted community, warmth, and a sense of belonging. Sophia was sketching out preliminary concepts when a knock on her door interrupted her concentration. Come in, she called, expecting to see Ryan. Instead, a petite woman with short blonde hair and designer glasses poked her head in. Sophia Martinez, I'm Claire Bennett, account manager. Do you have a minute? Of course. Sophia gestured to the chair across from her desk. Nice to meet you. Claire settled into the chair with the fluid grace of someone comfortable in her own skin. She was probably in her early 30s, impeccably dressed in a way that suggested both competence and style. "So," Claire said without preamble, "you're the one who's got Ryan all distracted." Sophia nearly choked on her coffee. "Excuse me?" "Don't worry, it's not obvious to most people. But I've worked with Ryan for 4 years, and I've never seen him check his phone as much as he did this morning. Plus, he was humming." Claire's grin was wicked. "Ryan Thompson does not hum." "I have no idea what you're talking about," Sophia said weakly. "Uh-huh." Claire looked entirely unconvinced. "Look, I'm not here to gossip. Well, okay, I'm a little here to gossip, but mostly I wanted to give you a heads up about the office dynamics." "What kind of heads up?" Claire leaned forward conspiratorially. "Ryan is complicated. Brilliant at what he does, but he's got this whole emotionally unavailable workaholic thing going on. His last girlfriend, Vanessa, total ice queen, dumped him about 6 months ago because, and I quote, he cared more about campaigns than commitment." Sophia's stomach twisted. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because," Claire said, standing up and smoothing her skirt, "I've never seen him look at anyone the way he was looking at you during the staff introductions this morning. And honey, that look was definitely not professional." After Claire left, Sophia tried to concentrate on her work, but her mind kept wandering. Ryan was emotionally unavailable. His ex had dumped him for being too focused on work. And apparently, he'd been looking at Sophia in a decidedly unprofessional way during the morning introductions. This job was supposed to be her fresh start, her chance to prove herself at a top-tier agency. Getting involved with her boss, especially one with commitment issues, was exactly the kind of complication she couldn't afford. At 3 o'clock sharp, Sophia made her way to the main conference room for the staff meeting. Ryan was already there, looking completely composed as he reviewed notes. When she entered, his eyes met hers briefly, and she caught something that might have been heat before he looked away. "Professional," she reminded herself. "Keep it professional." "All right, everyone," Ryan said as the room filled with account managers, copywriters, and designers. "Let's talk about what we're working with this week." The meeting proceeded smoothly, with Ryan demonstrating exactly why he was the creative director. He was sharp, insightful, and had a knack for asking the right questions to push ideas forward. Sophia found herself genuinely impressed by his leadership style. "Martinez," Ryan said about halfway through the meeting, "what's your initial take on the Sunrise Cafe brief?" All eyes turned to her, and Sophia felt the familiar rush of adrenaline that came with being put on the spot. "They say they want to target young professionals, but I think they're missing a bigger opportunity. The real market is people who are craving authentic connection in an increasingly digital world. Coffee shops aren't just about caffeine, they're about creating a space where people can unplug and reconnect." Ryan's eyes sharpened with interest. "Go on." "What if instead of focusing on the professional angle, we positioned Sunrise Cafe as the antidote to digital overload? Sunrise Cafe, where conversations happen. Make it about the human element." The room was quiet for a moment, and Sophia wondered if she'd overstepped. Then Ryan smiled. Not the polite professional smile he'd been wearing all day, but something real and appreciative. "That's exactly the kind of thinking that's going to make this campaign stand out," he said. "Good instincts, Martinez." The warmth in his voice made her cheeks flush, and she looked down at her notes to avoid the knowing look she could see Claire shooting her way. After the meeting, people began filing out, but Ryan caught her eye. "Martinez, can you stay for a minute?" Sophia's heart hammered as the room emptied, leaving them alone. Ryan gathered his papers slowly, seemingly in no hurry to speak. "That was good work in there," he said finally. "Thank you." "You're not what I expected." The comment surprised her. "What did you expect?" Ryan looked at her thoughtfully. "Someone more cautious. Most people spend their first day trying to blend in, not challenging the brief. Is that a problem?" "On the contrary." He moved closer, and Sophia caught that familiar scent of his cologne. I value people who aren't afraid to take risks." The air between them seemed to thicken, and Sophia was suddenly very aware that they were alone in the conference room, that Ryan was standing just close